The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the host of the webinar for tonight and co-chair of the webinar. My name is Sidita Hase, and I have here Kiran Mann, which many of you who have been part of our previous webinars know that she's my partner in co-chairing webinars. And tonight we have the honor to have her as a guest speaker. And Kiran Mann will be presenting shortly about resistance on change and what steps we can take to remove those barriers. We represent the Human Development and Leadership Division of the American Society for Quality. This is a global division aiming to enrich the personal and professional lives of our members and non-members across the global community. We continuously look, as you know, new speakers and new topics all within our body of knowledge, which can be found under my ASQ HD&L community website. We recommend that you register. It's for free, the registration, and you can look into what topics we could offer. We host monthly webinars, and as I said, if you are interested or know somebody else who is, we'd be happy to review their application. Before we begin with the webinar tonight, let me go over some webinar rules. If there is any question or any comment, please type under the question box, not the comment one, but the question box, and we will answer the questions. The webinar will be held for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have, as usual, a Q&A 15 minutes. If you have questions during that time, still use the question box, and we'll make sure to answer those as well. Those who attend for 40 minutes will receive a point 1 CU through an email, which will be separate from the follow-up email. And you can save that email and save it as a PDF if you want and claim credits with ASQ. Again, we're very delighted to have here Kiran Mann, and I will introduce her a little bit about her because she has plenty of experience. She's the president and founder of M2M Business Solutions, INC. She has a combined experience of 22 years working with and for automotive manufacturing and consulting in North America. She specializes in business growth strategies with a focus on business foundations, developing leadership teams and business structure that is aligned with business vision. She focuses in raising awareness and implementing customer experience business growth. She's an advocate of important and sharing tools of talent management and where our customers and employees are all human as well as aligned. Previously, Kiran has led automotive business team and successfully achieved business growth by implementing change management and focus on employee retention. Kiran enjoys adding value to business teams by introducing ideas and tools that are focused on day-to-day business struggles and models process that focuses beyond learning to successful implementation and accountability that helps managers overcome day-to-day business fires and change management. So we couldn't have picked another better speaker for tonight's topic, and we have always a pleasure to discuss together when we plan webinars with other speakers. So we had plenty of opportunity to discuss about change management, which always seems to be a very big resistance, no matter what kind of change we're going through. So Kiran, we're very happy to have you here tonight, and I'm glad that you'll be sharing some of your ideas, which some of you that you have shared with me, I know already. I'm very excited that we can share that with the community. So thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you, Sidita, for an amazing, amazing introduction. Thank you for everyone that has joined our webinar today. It kind of feels a little bit different when you're speaking yourself and not running in the background, planning and organizing the 1 hour. So I'm glad I was given an opportunity to speak and share what my thoughts are on why resistance is one of the biggest roadblock when a company and people are going through a change, and why resistance is there and how can we overcome in few ways. Given that we have limited time and I have to cap myself to 45 minutes, I may not be able to go into the depth of each topic, but we'll try to do a little bit justice there. So that's me. Since my face is not hidden, I thought I should throw a picture of myself on the screen. And I thought of, as I was putting together the slide deck for resistance, thought that, okay, what does my day look like and how much change do I really experience on a daily basis? So I thought I should give you a snapshot of what I do in a typical day. So I always kind of claim that I work with the companies to lay out their foundations and look for the gap analysis, or either I'm working with the client on a change management implementation, or at times the launch of a customer experience strategy, or working their way through their talent management and also training the teams on leadership skills development. And then all of a sudden I realized that all these things that I'm working with clients, they all actually bring change. So change is not only a topic on its own, but change is related to anything we're trying to bring or introduce a change from how our daily day looks like. Whether it's a launch of an ERP system, whether it's restructuring your departments or businesses or your team, whether it's bringing in a new team member when you're hiring somebody, it is a change for somebody that is joining in. It's a change for the people that have always done the way they've always done in the past, and now we're asking them to stop, think, retrain, and try it in a different way. So today's agenda, I thought let's go through what we're going to work on today. We'll talk about first why change is required, why it is so important that we should change, why not just stay in status quo and work our way as we have done all along in years and days in the past. And then we'll touch base on why do people resist when change is introduced. Why do you see people pushing back? At time a negative attitude, at time a lot of question where people are dissatisfied, demotivated, and are not very fully supportive of the changes that are bringing on. Why? What are the reasons, so that we can look at those reasons and implement in our change process of overcoming those reasons and the roadblocks. And then the third, of course, once we know why there's a resistance, we need to know how to resolve it. How do we overcome? And I will say that at the end of the hour, I'm not giving you a 100% solution how to overcome it. What we're sharing is when you're going through a change, how do you bring it down? How can you minimize the impact of a change among people? By communication and many other tools. And in the end, the fun part, 15 minutes where I get to listen what your questions are and share my thoughts. So let's begin. The first topic, why change? Why do you think we have to change in the first place anyways? So here's an example I want you to all look at and feel. Are you a gazelle or are you a lion? What do you think you are? And I'm going to give you a scenario and I want you to picturize yourself. Where do you fit in? So a typical day of a lion. Lion wakes up early in the morning, stretches, dawn of light, and looks around and is like, okay, I gotta run as fast as or faster than gazelle to make sure I can capture a gazelle, eat, and satisfy my hunger. Because if I don't, I do not run as fast as I need to and surpass and catch a gazelle, I will starve. And in days, I will slowly lose the energy and can die. And on the other hand is gazelle. And gazelle is like thinking, same thing, wakes up, typical morning, stretches, and thinks, oh, my day is going to go. And the first thing and the only thing gazelle is worried about is I better be able to run faster than lion. Otherwise, I don't even have to worry about being hungry because I'll be eaten way before that. So what do you think? Are you a gazelle or are you a lion? And either way, whichever is your answer, which I don't really need to know it, but either way, just keep in mind, gazelle and lion on both sides have to run faster and be aware of their competition, be aware of who's going to eat them, and be prepared how to overcome that. Otherwise, they can die. So how is businesses any different than that? Isn't business the same way? Whether a business is in a situation of a lion, very powerful, big corporate companies, or it's a gazelle, small company who's worried about being eaten out all the time. No matter which category you will put yourself to, one thing is for sure, change has to happen on a daily basis. In the competitive world we're working today, things are moving so fast that if you stagnate and stay in status quo all along, somebody else in your competition is moving faster than you are. And what does that do? It's trouble, no matter what. So I'm not saying status quo is bad, but status quo has to be reviewed. Is it really worthwhile in staying in status quo? And if we are, how are we preparing ourselves to that competition of not being eaten out? So looking forward, I thought I should share a quote. I love this quote myself as well, is what made your business successful in the past won't necessarily make it successful in the future. And I don't need to go into details about the change topic, about, what happened to Netflix and what happened to all the different companies that you're familiar with that made the changes or did not make a change, and how did it impact the future and the strength of the company. So change is not a choice anymore. Gone are the days when it was a choice. Today, change is a reality. Sorry, my slides got stuck. So now that we kind of agree that change is not something we can get away with, we have to, how do we prepare ourselves? So I wanted to share the line that I actually wrote on the top of the slide is, when you say a change, so if at any time you talk about with your teams, even at your home, if you're talking about bringing a change, moving a house, or buying something new that's going to bring a change in your house, or look at your workplaces, making a change in your team, in your processes, in your structure, or a change as big as company big changes that are at corporate level. When the word change comes in, almost everybody kind of misses skips a heartbeat, because change kind of is taken as negative. That change means, oh my God, more work and trouble. So I have started using the word as keep moving forward. Change is basically moving forward. But when you say moving forward, it is taken with more enthusiasm, it is taken more positively, and it is taken as a growth for themselves and people. So just a twist of word can at times do a small magic around you. And another reason of how you can overcome people's resistance is sometimes way we communicate to people, from negative to positive approach. And Siddhartha, if I can request you to do a poll, because I wanted to understand about what type of audience we have with us and kind of use some of the examples accordingly. So can we run the poll, please?
Sure. So we'll be launching the poll. You'll have 3 responses. Just pick one. Here you go. We'll wait a couple of seconds for who's going to vote wherever you belong. If you feel like you belong in more than one, just stick with the majority, like majority of your day, or if your experience can be work-related, non-work related. We usually keep the webinars very professional at the same time at a human personal level. So you have which group do you belong to?
Yeah, so just to clarify, people who initiated the change process means the people that were the decision makers, that were creating the strategy, that were creating the plan of change management, or launching and taking the next move. People who will implement are the ones that is going to make it happen, the change agents. And then people who will experience are the rest of the people in the company, all the rest of the employees that will be impacted, whether it's direct or indirect, with this change proposal being introduced.
And I'm not surprised from the response I'm already seeing. We have 84% of people responding, which is one of the highest participation we've had in the polls. And I guess because we all are somehow included in the change process. So let me close that. We have 84% who voted already. And here we go. We'll share the results. Okay, so we have almost equal percentage between the first and the second. So initiation, 45%, 44%, implementation, and experiencing 11%.
Oh, okay. So we have the brains in the room and people that have been working as the plan was being structured and the change process was discussed and worked out of how to implement it, or you're now responsible to actually make it happen and hold yourself and your team members accountable for implementation. Awesome. Thank you for that feedback. Moving on. I want you to do a drill. So whether you're sitting at your office desk or your home or you're outside, wherever you are, you don't have to stand if you don't want to, but cross your arms just the way you see it in this picture. Cross your arm. I'm going to just leave it for 10 seconds. All I want you to do is cross your arms wherever you are at this fabulous day. I'm in Toronto and it's very cloudy here. Okay? Now, can I now request you to unfold your arms? Unfold it. So bring your arms down. Okay? Now, can I ask you again to cross your arm, but not the way you did the first time, but the other way around? So the point is, the first time you cross your arms, you did it the natural way you always do. So some people have the habit of putting their right arm up and the left arm one at the bottom, or vice versa. But this time, second time, I'm asking you to do it the other way. After
you got me all confused here. I'm trying to do it the opposite way.
First, and you're going to feel something different. When the first time I asked you to cross your arms, it was very natural. Your brain didn't have to trigger any instruction and tell you what to do. It was very natural. It was like driving home. Default, your hands know which way to move in directions while you're driving your vehicle. But when I asked you to unfold it and fold it second time, but the other way around, it was like your hands got stuck probably, and your mind is a little uncomfortable, and you felt like a little discomfort. So just imagine that. If you are the people that belong to category 1 and 2 that we just did the poll on, and you are already familiar with the process of change management, the whole proposal, and all the 9 yards, the work that has been done in the background before you're ready to implement. You're already aware of that. You're more comfortable with that change that you're bringing in. But on the other side, the people that are just being informed, hey, as of starting next month, tomorrow, next year, we're bringing this change. And there is a whole lot of what, why, how, why should I do it? Those questions come in because they're uncomfortable. So it is no different. We as humans are used to doing certain things a certain way, including folding our arms. But as soon as somebody told you to unfold it and fold it the other way around, which is not your usual way of folding your arms, you felt discomfort. You were very uncomfortable for a second. Your brain had to be kind of reconnected and rebalanced of what you wanted to do. There was a disconnect. So we as people that have a lot more knowledge at times than the person that is working at the front line, and we're aware of the decision making that is happening, and we also in the things we're not so used to can have a discomfort. So why wouldn't you expect resistance from anybody else? Because if I tell you every time you're not allowed to fold your arms the natural way, you will have resistance too. If I tell you you're a coffee drinker early in the morning and I say, hey, from tomorrow onward, for your benefit, you're only allowed a cup of green tea, there will be some discomfort. There will be some resistance of why you should do that. So it is no different than this when the same scenario is being done in a professional setup in a business, a change is coming. So Here's some signs of resistance. What do you often hear? And I highly recommend that you look for these words and keep a note of that, because these are the signs of people that have resistance. They are the resistors who are using this terminology. That means you do need to keep a watch, have your ear open, ask them more questions, and understand why they're commenting like that, because when time comes for solution, you will need to overcome these resistance comments in order for more successful change management launch, and also minimize the discomfort to the people that have been asked to do a change. So I've just given a few more examples, but there could be any different examples in your own company. So be watchful of that, have an open ear, and record those comments. Some of these common ones are, it's too much work. You know, people love what they're doing on a daily basis. You're giving them more work. And especially when in today's world, people are wearing multiple hats and they've been covering for somebody else other than their own work. And they have way more tasks at times than they can handle. They're working more than 8 hours a day. And you're asking about adding a change, which is a whole lot of a big project. Obviously, the word is going to be, it's too much work. Second is where people have discomfort. Am I going to lose my job? Am I being replaced? With this change, what is going to happen to me? Or another one is, and it's a really huge big one, is resistance with the person who's leading it. At times, everybody has their way, their style of how they execute things. And some other people may have a different way of how they execute and work around the things. And if those things don't resonate and match together, they do not either trust the person that is leading the project, or they will not support. So right away, the resistance comes. And now you have to overcome that resistance, earn the credibility to again get a productive and fruitful outcome in the end. One of another common one, and sometimes we can resonate that with baby boomers, but you know what, even any of the generations later, each generation is limited or exposed to certain traits, and they are not to others. So you're asking them to learn something that they're not used to. So it's whether asking to use a new ERP system to a person who is a baby boomer, or somebody who is 25-year-old or 35-year-old, and you're asking them to write something on paper because the ERP system during the change is going to be down for a week, and now you will have to go manual. And that is a complete no-no to a upcoming generation. So be watchful of some of these comments. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. That's another common one. Stay in status quo. Why change something that is working fine? And here is where the solution at times is, you have to explain it to them that it is broken, but it's broken in a different way. It's broken in an indirect where they do not see it. But the coming time, we can lag behind from our competition, and it will result into wrong consequences. Hence, it needs to be fixed. And it's not fixing it, it's just making it better. Moving from where the level you are today, taking a next step and moving forward. And one of the last one is, it will take too long to see the result. At times, change management can take a year, 2 year. And people have to go through that process for that long to really see if it was fruitful. And this is where at times you could implement your plan with milestones, so that you can start earning their credibility and showcase the results and the outcomes of how the things are progressing as we move along. And it's not a complete blindfold for 2 years, and then all of a sudden it's yay or nay, and it flopped, and then people are going to say, see, I told you so. And if it went well, okay, good for us and good for you. So some of these things, as I'm even talking about how and why people resist, I'm going to keep on touching a little bit on solution, given those examples that how and where these should be looked into. Now, moving on to causes of resistance. One of the first one, threat to power. And threat to power could be with your subordinate, at subordinate level, or at an organizational level. It is most likely that managers will resist change that will decrease their power and transfer it to their subordinates. Hence, the threat of power is one of the causes of resistance to change. On the other hand, if you look at a corporate big organizational level, some groups, departments, and sometimes sectors may get power upon change that got more power than what they had before. And therefore, some people will oppose to the change process because, hey, I had this power in the past and now my power has been taken away or has been compromised, or somebody has actually more power than I am. And hence, the threat to power piece comes in, and they will resist to the change and ignore the fact of the results that they can achieve with this change. Second, control over your employees. And again, perspective from manager side and employee side. Organizational change always may result for managers to lose or decrease their control over employees. Hence, again, the resistance. Whereas on the other hand, in some scenarios, managers may have more control on their employees, and hence the resistance for employees seen. So that's two ways of looking at it. From manager's perspective, when they're informed about the changes, at times it may impact the way they had the control over their team members, control over their other peer, and control and correlation with the head office if there is one exist. Whereas more control is good. Okay, I got the more power, so those people are happy campers. But the people that had an impact where their power seemed to have deflected and decreased, they now will have resistance right away. And on the other side, employees. At times, maybe employees were given a lot of more luxury and opportunity and had more control on decision making and doing things. And now there has been some restrictions put in place. Say somebody was allowed to give a discount. If I was talking of a phone company, somebody's on customer service and you're talking to a client and you have the liberty to give a certain discount when you feel customer satisfaction, customer experience is being jeopardized. But now there's a restriction. You can only go so far and your manager, supervisor, or somebody above has to come in the picture. That's just one example, but you can look around in your own scenarios and see if there is any impact in those controls and how it impacts. Whether it's managers or employees, they all will have a reaction to it based on how it's going to impact them. Next one is employee benefits. Other than getting a great paycheck, the best and the other second best, or at times I feel like it's one of the best thing for employees is their image, their reputation, their prestige, and how they're looked after, how they're treated in the company, and how they feel fit into the company, how their own if I want to say vision, resonate with the company vision. So when those things, and this will even increase with the coming generations that are entering the workplaces, this is all going to be even a bigger piece where these things are looked into very deeply. So each workplace brings adequate prestige, reputation, and image, and it is important to your employees. So change may bring a drastic change. The change process may bring a drastic change to these three areas. And of course, it will result into dissatisfaction and demotivation among your employees, your people, and hence again a resistance. So next one is threat of comfort. One of the very common cause of resistance is status quo, and a personal comfort of being in status quo to discomfort of new change being introduced. It's a personal comfort in status quo. You're doing the things you're used to, you're trained, you kind of close your eyes and you know exactly what you have to do because it's a routine for you. And now as soon as the change is brought, which is going to impact that comfort and impact that routine, where you'll have to retrain, you'll have to again reassess your day and your activity and your correlations with everybody around you in the environment, it will bring discomfort with people. So people are so used to doing their task in certain ways that now when they're asked to get trained, perform task in a new fashion, resistance begins. So common phrases we hear is, why should I change the way I've been doing for years? What is it for me? It is working fine, and now I will have to learn all over again in case it is a change which may need trials. Say a new ERP system. You'll hear people complaining about how it is so difficult and challenging, and it was working so well before, so why do we have to go through the change? Another one is reallocation of resources, when you're losing your current resources. So some changes can bring change in distribution of resources among the groups or teams. The departments that end up getting more are, of course, again, the happy campers, but the ones that were already short of resources and now they have been given more tasks, they already currently didn't have available resources, and now they have been even bombarded with more tasks on hand, will again bring resistance to the table. Misunderstanding the process. That's a huge one, which at times, or I can say many times, get neglected. What is the real purpose of the proposed change? You, as the people that have initiated it, or the people that are implementing it, probably know a whole lot. You already know why the change is being brought. What is the real purpose of this proposed change? But amount of understanding you have over a year or two or whatever time frame you have committed in coming up with this plan. You took your time, did the 9 yards, did your SWOT analysis, looked into every direction, looked at the threats, what are the benefits, what kind of weaknesses and opportunities you had, and hence you created this change. But that is not the same understanding the people at the front line or the people that will now experience, have been just informed about a change, have at that point. So they have to go through that journey. They have to be communicated of why we're doing things, what were the opportunities, what are the gains that you can get, how it is going to help them. Their biggest question, what is it for me? You have to answer that for them of how you can make it better for them with this change. And that is why they should accompany you in overcoming and implementing this change. Mistrust the initiator of change. So, and hence the process again is not accepted. When employees don't have trust in the initiator, and I kind of touched base that in one of the previous slides, that trust phase is huge. When that connection is not there with the initiator or with the change manager, agent, or the person, whoever is leading the change, the process of change is not accepted. And again, this will cause resistance. So these are some of the ones that I am discussing with you, but keep in mind, one thing in change is you have to look into your own situation, and this is just a kickstart. And I have more for you, not just 7, but keep in mind that you look into your own situation and make a note of what can cause resistance towards the change process. So another one, fear of the unknown. Uncertainty is always dangerous. So change in many cases lead to uncertainty. Hence, result is bringing fear. It is normal for people to feel the fear of uncertainty. So when people feel uncertain in the process of transformation, they think the change are going to be dangerous. And as a result, again, sign of resistance are seen. Another one is habits, previous experience, because you're asking them to shift their habits, and they are talking about some previous failure experience they had. So employees have developed habits, and work tasks are performed in a certain way based on their habits. And process of change introduces a shift from their current habits into developing new habits and becomes another reason for those people to resist. As now they will have to shift from their status quo habit style and develop and put together a new habit. Lack of communication. Lack of communication is so huge that you can actually go through all the lists that I have put together here, 15 points, and many more that you can add to this pool, and you can relate lack of communication to each one of those. Oftentimes, employees are not provided with adequate information and change that is about to be implemented. And of course, it's going to cause resistance. All the whys they had, why, when, how, who is going to do it, why, what is the impact going to be on me? If those are not answered and they are not made aware of why this is being done and how it will be done and what will be the impact and what will be the impact on them and company as overall, the resistance is going to be seen. Peer pressure. How many of you come across people where when you ask them individually, hey, do you have a problem with this change? Do you think this is a good move? What's your thoughts? And they may not have anything negative to say. They may say, I'm fine with me. But yes, if they were a follower, they were part of a group, a team, where a stronger pressure or force is going against and has resistance, it's just a mere peer pressure. You're going to tag along at times. So you have to watch for those too, because many people are skeptical about need to change. So if the problem is not even a personal thing, they don't see the real need to why they must change themselves. So they don't see the need to change. Need to change. What is it for me? Start from a child that you have seen to all the way to the professional setup, whether it's your team, people above you. At any time, if you ask someone to do anything different or more than what they normally do, the first question would be, why? What is it for me? Why should I do it? So if that is a given piece, we should make a note that we watch for those. We look for those resistors and answer that question for them. Give a proper communication to them in the start as we move along. Open communication and updates so that they know how it is going to impact them and how it is going to benefit them. Increase the workload. Current overloads. So in today's world, when everyone is already working more than normal hours, change process may bring extra workload and worse if not implemented properly. Hence, again, employees will resist. Because one thing is extra workload because you're going through a change, whether it's a launch of a project, but if it is not done right and there are more hurdles than normal, I'm not saying there is any perfect change management. There is no 100% successful way of bringing a change because it is something the team has planned. It is something that the initiators and the implementers have put together in mind of going into future, preparing for the future. So it is a lot of things are projections. It is a lot on assumptions as well. So hiccups, roadblocks is pretty normal. You have to prepare people for that. You have to let them know. And in that case, if the planning is not done right, if things were not communicated properly, imagine the workload and the impact on your people. It will go worse. So this is where, again, I would say, how can you minimize resistance to change is by creating a proper plan, by sharing it, by monitoring it, by measuring it, by communicating to people, taking their feedback, listening to them, and answering those questions and considering their comments and their feedback. And it would kind of have a minimized level of overload that you are going to put on people. Timeline of change proposal. At times, time strains are very unrealistic. And at times, they don't even exist. At times, you may come across a situation where people will say, oh, we're going through this change. Oh, okay. How long this is going to take? They're like, oh, I don't know. Nobody told me that. That's as simple as that. That person knowing that what is the timeline, what is happening, and they're not staying in dark. More they're involved, more they will be more enthusiastic, better input and feedback they will provide, which will again impact in getting a successful launches and change management. So these are just some of the points again that, as I said, I have shared with you. Keep your eyes open and listen and ask a lot of questions from your people and make a note of that. And then figure out a plan of how you are going to overcome them and make sure you're solving them. One of the comments that I've added here is do a diagnostic study in your company. Do a diagnostic study of how each step will impact and who, which are the team members in a company that will get impacted at phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and so on. And then get them involved. Listen to their issues. Listen to what their hiccups are in the current system from where you're moving forward. And they will tell you, hey, if you really are going to bring a change, could you be able to fix this for me? And if you can do that for me, then it's a win-win for me. Okay, listen to those thoughts because they may be able to give you the input that we may have overmissed at times. So again, ask, listen, run a diagnostic study, meet with each group individually, departments, sectors, companies, depending on what kind of company structure you have, and make notes of that, and then figure out where to put them in your implementation plan so that they're looked after. Here's an example of a resistance curve. So I've put down a time at the bottom and self-esteem. A typical change management process as the proposal is going in, it starts first from a denial. And I'm not talking about the people that belong to step 1 because they're the one that created the whole plan and now are ready to implement it. But anybody after that, even the people at times that fall into implementation process group, team 2, they may have first denial because when they're informed that, hey, you're going to the change management and this is your task for 6 months or 3 months or 2 years in the future where you have to go through this and make this change and make it happen. First would be why, how. So denial is a given. If we come up with a denial just by being asked to drink a cup of tea and not a coffee, and a denial from your brain when I ask you to fold your arms in a different way than your normal way, please expect it to happen in any other form, which is going to be more rigorous and aggressive than the 2 examples I've given you. So denial is from where everybody starts. After that, it's in your control. I've given you kind of a little worse situation. So denial will go to anger because you have taken them and you're telling them they're going to come out of their status quo. They will get confused, possibly. They may. Not saying all will. There will be certain people that are very open to changes and they're like, oh, bingo, I got to learn something new, or I thought this was a good move. I always wanted this to happen. And they will be more positive and more supportive of that. Whereas there would be people that don't like changes. They're okay with coming and going as their normal gait has been in the past. And now you're going to interrupt their daily routine. And that would add between anger and confusion again. But confusion is also related to not knowing enough. Communication. How much did you tell them? How far they have been given the time to learn and understand what is happening before you say, let's march forward. That is important. Keep in mind, if you took 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to work out this change management plan, and now you're ready for launch, and when you're telling people, those people have missed that time frame. So their mindset is not exactly where your mindset is. So you got to figure out a way how to get them to catch up with you. And then they will go into depression if they're not handled. It will go to crisis where the project will be in jeopardy, and it may impact the company in a different way. It can impact, the resistance can take it to the level of demotivating people and impacting other work performances in the company as well. And once they're taken out of that and they're shown the light in the end of the tunnel and they're given the tools and they can see that, okay, you know what, not that bad, it is going to work, it is going to help me in certain way, slowly they'll start moving forward to acceptance and develop the new confidence in the new change proposal that is being done. So this curve can go either way depending on how the change management was handled, from denial to new confidence. I would say the best case scenario is you have a denial, first denial, and denial again can be a soft denial, just being curious. Hey, can you please explain me the whole thing? I'm okay if it is going to work well, so can you just share me everything with me? And they're open. That's a soft denial. Or it says, no way I'm doing it. That is where somebody's putting their foot down. And now you have to be more careful of how you're going to come across that, because just telling that this is happening, whether you like it or not, is not going to help us, because it will impact, again, the success of the program. So denial can go to straight acceptance if things are very controlled and communication is like to the ultimate when the change was being done or being introduced. So that's where the curve can fluctuate based on how the whole planning was done. Here's 3 examples that when I asked you to do the poll, and I want you to look at that, and it's beneficial for all the 3 groups. Number 1, mindset and understanding of the people who initiated the change process, and I have a dark arrow line underneath. These are the people that probably had this idea years back. Then they kind of sat on it. You know, they looked into it. They did their research. They met with suppliers. They met with their customers. They met with their team. They probably looked at who the people will be. They imagined, they dreamt, they imagined, they created the plan. So they know it all on that project. Their level of confidence in the change process being introduced is at the best level. Now is people that kind of are change agents or are now getting involved as it is being disclosed to maybe mid-management, senior management, and being tasked with accountabilities and being asked to implement certain things. So they are better than not knowing at all, but they still have a catching leg compared to the people that are ahead of them. So they have less time usually, and they have to quickly learn. Why is this happening? What am I going to do? How? And if people ask me a question, how I'm going to handle it. But you have a lot of questions from the people above you to understand it. And if there is a gap there, that can again damage the change process launch. Because if information from top to the second level did not get communicated properly and something got missed, execution process will be impacted. So be open. If you didn't get told something, go and approach the right people above you and ask. Keep asking till you know what you need to know to do your job well, effectively. And also, when you're going to implement, and I'm talking about the team, group 2 people that are more into implementation process, job task, is you're in the middle. You're taking instruction from the top, then you're creating an implementation process. You're working on how you're going to execute, who are you going to be your team players, and then you're going to make it happen with the rest of the company employees. You have to fulfill the satisfaction of the people that are above you and the people that you're going to be working, that are going to experience in team 3. So that means you need to know as much as you can, or more than everybody else, so that you can execute and implement the process, but also answer the questions that are going to come to you to overcome the resistance. So you can see that in between that, the mindsets can be different. So if a person from team 1, group 1, is talking to somebody in group 3 who has no idea, and their mind today is at the point that What is it for me and why am I doing it? And you're feeling like, why does this person show me a resistance? Now you know why. Because you are way ahead of them in the learning curve on that project than they are. So you have to be understandable and be aware of that and figure out how to overcome those pieces as well. Moving forward is, now that we know why people resist, what are some of the solutions for this? Here. So I've named few, but again, as you will list out your points of what the resistance causes are, you will have to make sure that you're creating the solutions based on that. So some of the ones that I've put down here is diagnosing the source of resistance, feedback from resistors. So that's where I said, do a diagnostic study, have an open dialogue with different groups. At times, doing a whole talk with the whole group is not good. You have to do it into pieces so that you can listen to each individual or teams and work your way around. Cry wolf scenarios. Maybe in the past, people have gone through change management, which were failures, and now they're like, this is going to be another one. So you have to prove it to them. Steering groups. Create the groups that can help you improve the process and implement your strategy. Reason of changes. Inform and understand the benefits. Why we're doing it. That's where I went through the whole why I already explained of why this is happening. More you communicate and inform them, better they will understand the benefits that they're going to gain. Measure the change. Not that you're starting the project and it's 2 year long and in 2 years is when they get to know whether it was successful or was it a failure. No, have milestones, measure them and celebrate. Celebrate the people that have fulfilled that milestone. An outcome of change. Explain and be very open what are the results expected once you complete it and how the result is going to impact them, each one, as a group and as a company. Share your success stories and remember, employees are vital to the process of transformation. You have got this and so do they have. So takeaways through this webinar, becoming very familiar with the importance of why change. I won't spend time on that. We'll rather go to the Q&A, but these slide decks is going to be posted on our portal and also on YouTube. So Siddhartha will give you more about that. And at any time, you can get back to these slides and look into those points as well of the takeaways. So Siddhartha, I'll give it to you for the question answers.
So, well, where do I start? Well, thank you. Thanks a lot, Kiran. It's always a pleasure discussing with you on many topics, and particularly on this one. I feel like you covered like 180, I can't say, but 360 degrees, the change resistance topic. You know, I usually have questions myself, and you covered pretty much all I had in mind and all I've experienced while leading projects and people at work and all of that. And I would like to highlight the fact that I was glad you mentioned who's the person leading the change, because as you mentioned before, trust in people who are actually leading that change does matter. Maybe the way they approach it, or I don't know what's in it, but the people aspect is always there. And another very important aspect that you mentioned was making people like have them included in the process itself. And I would highly recommend the part of the diagnostic study is very important, but I feel like if they start where you mentioned, make them include since the beginning, so at the design phase to hear what they would be interested in changing, then that's even more important, because in the moment that you hear from them, the solution itself becomes their solution, and they give their input into it, and they feel part of it and embrace it better and help you even like during the process itself. Maybe more changes are needed because we can plan a change, but then as we move into an agile mindset of the world itself, we might have to change the change itself during the process. So it's very important to have these people on board, and I'm very happy you spend a lot of time in that one. We did have one question Louise, as usual, attending our webinars, has always great questions, and one of that is, so how is resistance affected by personality, background, like for the way the person was built somehow from experiences? It can be work-related or non-work-related.
That's
Or
a
what was your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one of the very common change resistance factors of what causes. And yes, personalities definitely make is one of the causes. Also, what were their past experiences? So I touched on under the causes, habits and past experiences, and which kind of covers along the line is personalities. How each individual has been, how they grew up, how they were brought, what cultures they were developed in, what type of work experience they had, what type of bosses and team members they had in the past. Everything impacts each individual in a certain way. And as they're growing over the years in a professional or personal setup, it impacts their decision and their thought and their mindset. So based on what they have seen in the past is how they're going to react, because nobody has seen the future. It's all past and current. And at time, given the confidence you have in the current team members, you may have resistance as well that, oh my God, you want to do this? Great idea, but I don't feel confident in the team that is doing it to make it happen or make it successful. And that's where the resistance come to the initiator or the person leading the project as well. And again, in the past, maybe in the same company or past experience companies, they have had experiences where they were in a situation where there were failures and things didn't go right for them. They had a bad experience, long hours, a lot of times when they were let down. And when people were let down or they're let down, they don't want to experience that again, and hence they'll have resistance. So the key point is it could be various reasons. Point is you have to listen and make a note of that and ask them why. Why do you have resistance? What bothers you? How do you feel about it? Listen to them. And depending, once you know why they have resistance, you have to figure out the way to minimize it and overcome it as much as possible.
Thanks, Kiran. And I would like to add the fact that yes, it is related to personality, but personally myself, I've gone through many changes and I felt like I was a different person in different phases of my life. So even though personality might have been the same, and I don't know, like that's another open question to be discussed in a future time. But what I've learned myself is that I try to stretch myself. Even if there is no change coming, nowadays I try to do something that I feel like I would be resisting, just to keep that, it's like a gym, going to the gym. So you don't like it the first time, second time, but if you have a purpose and you get used to it, like with time, it becomes more natural. So always try to work with yourself as well, and not just like trying to convince other people to change, because I feel like the more you learn about how you change better or what helps you, the better leader you'll be in helping other people go and embrace that change. And I want to point out, because this webinar is very much focused on understanding change itself and why people resist change, because it all starts with understanding. And that's why we spend a lot of the time today about understanding and not as much about solutions, because as long as we understand, then we'll have a solution which is kind of customizable depending on the need there. So we could invite Kiran in another webinar as well, because we had some requests like that to focus on the solutions as well, a little bit more in detail. And but tonight we really wanted to take some time and really reflect on why is change such a big thing when it comes to being implemented, and where is it coming from. And as you notice, like the slides were endless, like we couldn't finish like how many reasons they could be out there. So it's not just easy to come up with 2 tips, 3 tips on a solution and that's it, because that's how we nowadays run. Like we feel like an executive wrote a book or an article right there. We want the top 10, top 3. It's not just like that. It's not like a formula. It really depends on the situation, the circumstances, and where is it coming from. And as you noticed, it's coming from many, many ways. So thanks for covering that, and we'll keep that in our minds for a future webinar as well, to see what has worked And again, if you had some experiences you want to share, we're always willing to have you being a speaker as well. Another question we had is, we're running out of time as well, but we want to cover this, the control part. So where does control fall in the resistance, in the group 2 and 3 that you had, and is there any solutions to that?
Say it again, control?
Control fall in the resistance part, like how much of impact the control people who want to control over the other people.
Correct.
When leading change.
Yeah, and that's again related to power as well. Control could be on managers and employee, either perspective. And control, to give an example of that, would be in a team where manager had all the powers. And now that change is going to result into manager not having as much powers. And probably that manager, depending again on their personality and how they are and what type of leader they are, they may be very happy that, okay, this is getting delegated, but on the other side, it could be taken as that my power is going away, right? I'm losing my control. So that on the other side, on employee's perspective, at times employee have a lot of liberty and they have way more control and they're able to perform their duties and their tasks without too much interruption in it. But if that setup is changed and the new process is going to impact that control in a negative way, then again they will have resistance because they preferred doing the way they were doing all along in the past. And controls also at times could be, to give you in a technology way example, would be ERP systems. You know, in a manual way or more loosey-goosey formats of ERP in the past are where people have so many headaches because of the system, but they are very comfortable in doing their own piece of task the way they have been doing all along. And now a company decides to launch a fabulous $1 million, billion dollars program ERP system, and it is going to take 2 years to implement, so growing pains is going to be there, and also it will have a lot of restriction. Even though the outcome is going to be fabulous, it will be easy for them, it will be less headaches for them, they will be able to perform their tasks better because information coming to them would be better, in a better format, so that means their output will be better. But they still may have resistance because of control. Because in the past, control was in a way which they favored, and in the new system, the control may be taken or changed or shifted, that they may have a concern on that.
And we're about to close here, but we want to point out that these tips or these circumstances we just mentioned here are not just like on a vertical cross basis or on a peer and a group team basis, so they're all related to one another. And so the point to me is, as I work, is just like consider the other person as a person and put yourself in their shoes as well. And what do you like to hear when somebody is coming to you with a change? Will you be willing to share why is that, ask what they need, how that would help them, and include them, make them part of it. And sometimes it's hard because you might have a person who's resisting. You might say like, really, I'm spending so much energy on it and I'm just done with it. So you might like give up, but the point is to be willing to work with yourself as well and kind of ignore at some point that resistance and then still try to stick there and try to help them. So it is a selfless sort of job as well. So it takes some patience as well and not just like a solution out there. So thank you very much, Kiran, for being tonight, and we might be willing to consider another topic on this specific area of change management, since it has like a lot of interest. And I would like to, go ahead.
I'll add a comment if there is a request for going deeper into solution. Please feel free and reach out to us with your questions, and then we can kind of, Sadita and I can put together something so that we consider those touch points or those concerns that you have.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to point out. So the recording and the presentation will be available. The recording presentation will be on my ASQ community for those who are not members of ASQ, they still can register for free. So you can see those. The YouTube channel, our YouTube channel will have the recording. So take your time. It's a lot of information, and brainstorm about it, but also take the time to digest it, because it's a lot of areas of change that we discussed. So please use the email. Kiran has the email right there. She's always open to discuss things like that. And we will have another webinar, which is another kind of change area, but it's about the millennials. So that will be on September 4th, and it will be talking about tips to hire, train, and engage millennials. I don't know if they're so different as we think. I saw some other research on that, so it will be very interesting to hear by Luciana Paulis. And registration can be done already on my ASQ community. To get automatic notification for future webinars, for those who are not members, who are not signed up to our newsletter, you can also follow our LinkedIn page or sign up for the free newsletter on these topics. We do have 1 minute survey, which we hope that you will fill. It's just a few questions that will pop up on your screen as soon as you close the webinar. For those who are only on the phone, you'll still get the email, a follow-up with the link in it. So take your time, express what you need, so we can adjust always in an agile way as well our webinars to fit your needs. As I mentioned, the CEO credit, you'll get another email separate from the follow-up email, and you will save that to claim your credits. Again, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to having you in our next webinar. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks, Kiran. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.